Steve Skeet. I think that's who we're. Here we go. All right.
Now we can have a meeting.
Now you can proceed.
Proceed.
All right. Do we have them turned on now? We do.
Yep.
Okay. Excellent. We'll let you get set up and then I'll call us to order. We're only 5 minutes late, and you said it. Hey, give me 5 minutes. I'll be there within 5 minutes. Good call, Steve.
Now, if the cops show up, it wasn't me.
Gotcha. Okay. Oh, are we ready? Okay. Call to order. Let's rise. Pledge to allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, before I get started, welcome back, everyone. I know we've got a few people out tonight, but for the rest of you, I hope all your holidays were safe. And then the good snowstorm that we got, the blizzard, the snowgeddon, pretty much wiped us out. I think it's the heaviest snow we've received in the last 20 or 30 years. But our praises go out to all those volunteers and our public works folks all over our county roads and city roads and so forth. They've done a lot of work, and I can't thank them enough. And it's good to see all of you back. All right, let me do a quick roll call, and then and we'll talk about the minutes. Alan Stork.
Here.
William Gufschalk.
Here.
Doug Tysted.
Here.
Robert Owens.
Here.
Steve Skeet.
Here.
Dan Clemens.
Here.
All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, total number of vote is 6. Let the record show. 7 total, counting myself, 6 to vote. All right, have you all had a chance to look at the minutes? I'm looking for an approval of a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
I have a motion,
Second.
and I have a second on the minutes. Thank you. Any discussion? All right, I'll call roll. Alan Stark,
Yes.
William Gustschalk,
Yes.
Doug Tysted,
Yes.
Robert Owens,
Yes.
Steve Skeet,
Yes.
Dan Clemens.
Yes.
All right, let the record show 6. Vote approval of the minutes. Secretary's report.
All right, good evening, gentlemen. On today's consent agenda, you do have one item, so if you approve the agenda, that consent agenda item will automatically be approved. And then on your regular agenda, we do have one public hearing. We did receive correspondence for that item, and which was put in front of your seats before the meeting. Other than that is all I have.
Thank you, ma'am. Do I have any declarations tonight from any of the council? Okay, none?
Yes. I'm sorry. You caught me asleep. I received on the case DEV 24-125, I received an outside email from a concerned citizen that sent it to me instead of to the planning staff. I have a copy here if anybody wishes to see it, or if Misty wishes it to be sent around.
Okay. All right, thank you. Okay. At the same time, I received a couple of phone calls on this case DEV 24-125, and which is another most important reason why I needed you here tonight, Stephen, because I am not going to be able to vote based on the number of phone calls I received and the information I received. So I'll remain as my chair, and my role and responsibility is to remain neutral and to continue driving this in a professional manner. But I would not feel comfortable voting. Is that about right, John? Thank you. Okay. Any others? All right. Do I have a motion for approval of the agenda that you see in front of you?
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Alan Stark?
Yes.
William Gustschalk?
Yes.
Doug Tysted?
Yes.
Robert Owens?
Yes.
Steve Skeet?
Yes.
Dan Clemens?
Yes.
Let the record show 6 has approved the agenda. All right, so we'll go to the regular agenda. As As discussed, there's one item on tonight's agenda. Agenda item number 9A in your notes in front of you. The Leavenworth County Planning Commission will now consider case DEV 24-125. It's a special use permit for an amusement park, commercial athletic fields, racetracks, circuses, carnivals, and fairgrounds for outdoors events for RJ Farm as outlined in your posted agenda. Public comment portion is limited to 3 minutes. There won't be returns. You'll get one turn, it's 3 minutes, and then that will be it. Planning staff will maintain the clock up here, and once the clock goes off, the rest of us are no longer listening. I appreciate your input. Please don't make me be a bad person. I'm not a bad person. Staff report, please.
All right, before you is case DEV 24-125, which as mentioned is a special use permit request for I'm going to be specific, fairground. It's all spelled out in the public hearing notice because that is what the land use table has it listed as, the entire use type. But really what we're talking about is a fairground for outdoor events. This will be located at 00000 Cantrell Road. The PID number is listed up there for you. Attached is the site plan of what they are proposing to do. On the site there currently is an existing barn and a corral. The applicant has also installed a stage. However, it was located in the floodplain. They did receive their floodplain permit for that stage, so it is now in compliance. Additionally, they are showing parking for the maximum number of attendees that they are recommending, which is 300 max. Plus some additional spaces for commercial vehicles and also contestants that will be participating in these events should this be approved. They will also have a vendor area where vendors can sell food and retail sales. I will note in their application they indicated that they will not be selling alcohol on site. That was included in their narrative. This request, this parcel is located in the RR5 zoning district, so in that zoning district, a fairground does require a special use permit, which is why this application is before you today. Staff did review this application based off of the 7 criteria that you guys must review when considering a special use permit. Staff provided their analysis in that staff report for you. Based off staff's analysis, as long as certain conditions are approved, we feel that this application does meet the intent of those 7 factors, and therefore staff is recommending approval with conditions. I know there's a lot of information on this one. I don't want to spend too much time unless you guys have specific questions. Some of the major things to know is that they are requesting this for 15 events in a calendar year. So 15 events in a calendar year. 300 people is the maximum amount that they would be hosting an event for. These events could include rodeos, birthday parties, weddings, concerts, things like that. As talked about, they will have vendors on site. They do anticipate having up to 10 parking attendants to help them with the parking, getting people on the site in a safe manner and not clogging up the roadway. Staff made sure that there is a condition there that they cannot park or stack on the roadway. So they make sure that they are making sure that they have enough staff to accommodate that. They are requesting that these events be open from 12 p.m. to 11 p.m. Now, of course, there's going to be setup and tear down after that event, but the actual event time will be from 12 p.m. to 11 p.m. Let's see, what else haven't I missed? They will be contracting with a third party for portable toilets to be brought on site. Of course, they would have to also make sure that those portable toilets are kept in a clean and sanitary manner and that they are removed in a timely manner after the event has occurred. Otherwise, I think that hits all the high notes. Staff, we also wanted to point out, because this is the first time that you guys will be reviewing this after we approve that tiering system for special use permits. So staff's recommendation is that this is classified as a type 3, and we're recommending a time limit for this special use permit of 5 years. All right, any questions?
That was my first question. Are we going to put time limits on this?
Yep.
And we have passed that with the Board of County Commissioners on time limits for SUPs now.
To be clear, staff is, hold on. Should be on. To be clear, staff recommends a timetable. You're not held to that timetable. We recommend 5 years. You could go more, you could go less, but that is staff's recommendation.
Okay.
Just to be clear.
Okay.
I do have a question on the temporary use permit. I don't recall ever hearing this.
That temporary use permit is not reviewed by the Planning Commission. It is reviewed by the Board of County Commissioners. So they did
went directly
review,
to the Board of County Commissioners.
Yes, they did
approved
review
it.
a TSUP this summer, and they approved that TSUP.
And their temporary ones, do they have the same conditions? That's what's in this packet?
A few of the conditions are the same, but of course, since this is more of a permanent SUP, there are more restrictive conditions placed in this, and they're beholden to the narrative that they provided in the application.
And all the neighbors were notified?
All the neighbors were notified per state statute.
One of the things that I'm curious that I read, and tell me if it was just a typo or if I misunderstood, they said that no noise or light would go beyond the borders.
They were talking about no net gain. So the existing light will stay that way. They are not going to shine a light on neighboring properties. If they do, they have to do some sort of treatment to that light to shield it from adjacent parcels.
Okay, so the neighbors don't look like they're living next to a football field, right?
Correct.
And what are they going to do about the noise? Because rodeo can get, and fairgrounds gets kind of noisy.
Right. So again, we have a condition that we're placing on here that it will have a net 60 decibel at the property line net limit on it. So they cannot exceed that. If they do, then they would not be in compliance with the special use permit if you approved it as staff presented.
And their temporary one was for how long? Was that the new?
It was a one-time event.
Just a one event, not a year, but just a single event.
Just a single event, yes.
How do you monitor the noise limit? I understand the light, you explained that, but how do you determine if you're greater than 60 decibels at a property line? I mean, do we send people out? Does the sheriff go out?
It would be based on a complaint basis. If we received a complaint, we could send someone out. There's an app that measures decibels, and you go to the property line and measure said decibels. You need to know what they are prior to and post. Very few times you're going to get 0 decibels or 0 lumens at a property line. So you have to know the existing condition and then the post condition after the event starts. That gives you the 0 net increase that Amy's talking about.
So the 0 was a net increase.
It's a 0 net increase.
No light.
Right. There's no way to get a 0 reading at the property line, either in lumens or decibels. So you're shooting for a 0 net increase.
Well, but the noise says it shall be limited to 60 decibel period, not an increase to 60 decibel period. So
60 decibels is the standard rating for a permissible noise level in a residential area.
Oh, okay.
That's a pretty common thing that goes along all suburban areas in much, much smaller lots.
Okay.
So if you're getting to 60 decibels on a property of this size, then there's a serious noise increase, and it can be addressed.
Okay. Thank you.
So, and here's the first problem I see. If we're going to limit to the event to 300 people, but we have parking spaces for 400 cars.
I was going to ask that too.
So if we have 400 cars, we're way over the 300 person limit. Am I?
There was questions raised about that during the review. However, part of that goes into the contestant and commercial vehicle parking that they would also need to accommodate. So they wanted to verify and make sure that they had enough parking to accommodate all that they were requesting. If you set this, the condition that we have limited here, which is 300 people, they have to stick to 300 people.
Hang on.
I'm sorry, Commissioners. The hubbub that we're seeing here is we're getting reports that the camera is not on, and so we're double checking. We see that it's
off now.
Now it's off. So
Hit that switch one more time. time?
We're just
Turn it back on?
trying to make sure it's working correctly.
Leave it there?
Yeah, I was going to say, it may need a little bit of time to spin up.
That's him.
We can halt and desist.
You want us to take a break?
I think that's,
Yeah.
we could take a few minutes and make sure we have our technology.
Recess.
Yeah,
5 minutes.
yeah, we'll take a recess for 5 minutes.
Okay. Weren't you to survey my west boundary line this week? You were supposed to survey my west boundary line this week?
Got a little technical difficulty.
Yeah, I'm sure I got that in the email, said you were going to be there Sunday. What we got first?
Larry, email, no one started the live stream for the PC meeting. Larry said no one started the live stream for the PC meeting. I thought Dawn went. She went up.
Dawn turned it on at about 6:25 or 5:25. She turned it on, and so when Misty pointed it out, that's when I logged in.
We may have to reboot.
So, Blythe Fairgrounds, Blythe Fairgrounds, is that just what?
That's what they call it.
I mean, that's how the county.
What we can do. Pull the audio, it's not recording on its own. I'm not seeing any lights there, which tells me.
Yeah. I think, isn't there one on 24?
I don't know. I couldn't find it. It's out here off of this main drag off of.
I jiggled it, and then I saw the lights come on. The lights were on for a few minutes, and then I looked up again, since I guess that's the switch owner's job. And it was,
It's a gravel road.
could be
But
the
on,
switch.
on the way to Lawrence,
Because I mean,
Toby, if you go on
when I-
2440, there is a.
You know, I didn't turn it off and back on, but I did
Say once every other.
check to make certain it was all the way up. And
Would we go to unplug the camera and
But
let
they've
it
got a
clear out
Kwanzaa
the...
hut, so they have like their road band and music in that big
This black
building. But you can see
Let's-
it. I've asked some friends of mine.
Got it in the on position.
Oh, just go in. If you see a bunch of cars there, just go in. I'm like, oh yeah, and just start drinking Modelo, and they'll be like, yeah.
Says working on it, he's going to restart it. Restart it.
So we reached for the big red switch. Are we ready to pull a plug and put it back in?
I was just, I knew it didn't have anything to pertain within our boundaries of consideration, but I was just curious.
Limited.
I'm confused on that.
Yeah, me too.
So,
Once we get the camera going again, everybody, we're going to have Amy give a synopsis just to make sure that that's on page.
yeah, well, agreed.
Move on,
Yeah.
if that's okay with the body.
I couldn't hear you.
Let Amy give a synopsis of the staff report because that's really all we've been through so far, just to make
Okay.
sure that's on camera
Okay.
before we
Is it
move
all
on.
right? Is the camera on now?
No,
Not yet.
not yet. We're working on it.
Notification from Larry.
I mean, I wouldn't know why it's not working based on the weather. You know, I mean, if it's working off a satellite dish out there on the building to connect to a water tower, like I'm out in the county, I got this little thing that connects to a water tower, and that water tower connects to the next water tower, and eventually winds up in Topeka, and then it's got to come all the way back to me. You know,
It's all the drones that are relaying the signals.
that's
Marcus,
it.
we
That's
need to
it.
go spend $600 with Elon Musk and buy Starlink. My Starlink has this much ice on it.
the
I'm running 600 megs, boom, boom, constant.
I'm telling you.
It hasn't missed a beat.
I like my
The snow had blown around it. I'm like, man, I probably need to go clear the satellite. Satellite did this and said,
I love my service.
Current, and it's laying flat now.
I got to tell you, I don't pay nearly that, and I love my service. I do.
Oh
It's
no,
fast,
that's just to get,
it's good.
that's
It's
a portable
fast.
system. You can take that to the horse barn with you, put it in your truck, drive to California, take it with you.
Are you getting from Starlink?
Fiber optics buried under the ground didn't skip a beat.
Yeah, but you can't take that on your, hey, see,
Fiber,
when we
fiber,
get
5G, fiber.
we get ready to sail to Venezuela here in about 2 months. I just pick up my satellite, we put it right on our boat, and we are off.
Sell to Venezuela.
Yeah.
I just had to get that in because of him.
Yeah.
Watching it out there in the waves.
No, we got big boat.
I surely thought that I was going to lose.
It's not near big enough,
because, you know,
but
my
it gets
TV,
us-
everything is through that
Internet.
little bitty,
My
that little bitty to the water
satellite's
tower
heated.
to the.
Like it comes on.
But
Sure, Starlink?
never,
Yeah,
I have
yeah.
never
Yeah.
lost service.
We,
It's
I
was
amazing.
really
It is amazing.
glad of that snow because last time I saw a bad dish and I had to get up there and
Like a mom and pop
We took it on the boat with
business
us
that
last
everybody
year.
has out there in the county with me. Like,
Because
oh yeah, try
our
this.
daughter-in-law, they're
And it is so
satellites.
good.
They don't
It
have
is
us. They got
so
something.
good. And
But,
it's fast. And I've been
We
working out of my
mounted it
office
down
in
with
my
some
house
sandbags
for 3
up
straight
on the
days.
top.
I'm talking
And it,
multiple
and it,
teams.
as you'd hit
meetings,
waves, that thing just said,
meetings, more meetings, more meetings.
you never
we got
lost
anywhere from 100
connection.
to 150.
I mean,
It's fast. It's
shit's
real fast. It's
amazing.
instantaneous.
I mean,
Some of the employees
I
live
said-
in the city of Lansing and the city of Leavenworth, and they've got, high-end 5G
He's that
fiber,
smart.
and they're
I
losing
mean, he's
connectivity.
that guy is.
He hear their voice. But for me,
And he's got billions.
I'm clear as a bell.
Oh, yeah.
He's got
I'm just
billions.
like, this
He's,
is
you know,
great.
There's
That'll be very interesting.
It's not satellite. It's this tiny little array.
I don't.
Yeah,
The
it looks like a
300
little
people
satellite.
and
It's
the
like a
400
square
spaces
box.
have me thrown off.
And it shoots to, they put it on your house, somewhere around your house.
In the
to
5 years, that's a
the
no-go.
antenna,
Let's give them two.
somewhere close to the water tower. They use the county water towers from antenna to antenna. And it's super fast. Instantaneous. It's super fast. But all my neighbors went to
I don't see a red light.
The old rock barn.
5G fiber underground when it came through.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Now he has every weekend. Every weekend.
I got
Yeah,
better
every
service
weekend.
right here.
And and that's why I've argued and told them we need a tier system for SUPs.
I'll
as a
shoot
way
you-
to
I'll shoot you
revoke
the
them
note,
where
yeah.
we don't get sued. And here's what I'm told. Oh, anybody
Okay.
can sue me.
Yeah, I
Yes,
love
get
it.
that.
I
But this
love my
gives us a
service. I really
solid
do.
foot
Is that
to
a
stand on.
Starlink?
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
It's not Star
Well,
Wars.
because what do you do if they don't?
we don't. If we could, hey, what are we going to do with the dump out in Easton?
Who's
They're
Get her out of
getting ready to go. They
Topeka.
bought the other
Well,
I'll find out
234 acres out
real
there.
quick.
And so we're just going to let them
right
just,
using that?
as soon as the state says, oh, you've done what you're due. No, they got a SUP that's good for infinity. We can't even stop that. We didn't even put a time limit on that. And the shit part is,
Area
our
Network?
county commissioners would have got off their ass and passed the tier system and the new guidelines that the SUP doesn't transfer with the sale of property. We wouldn't have had that problem. But they couldn't get the job done.
Yeah, it shouldn't transfer.
So that's what I'm running on for county commissioner. That's my foot in the door. You guys couldn't get the job done. Now I'm going to finish it for right now.
Okay. All right. So, but it has to be visual as well as voice. It can't just be voice.
Well, we'll get a ruling, but typically, as long as you have minutes, you accommodate the statute.
I got you. All right. Thanks.
As a matter of practice, I will see what administration has to say.
Okay. Thank you. All right.
Hey,
Somebody could.
Well, I mean, it
Misty's
took
gotta
us
do
a
something
while.
for that first big day on the job.
It took us a while to dig out to get here tonight. So the fact that I actually got here, I'm good.
Yeah.
I can.
Can somebody?
So if it's tomorrow morning when the sun comes up and I can see where I'm going to get back, I'm good.
Could somebody stream it from their phone?
So you mean they didn't
You
come
got a
out?
day of morning tomorrow, don't you?
It's called
Yes.
Mercury Wireless. Mercury, like your
So
car.
you
Ford Mercury.
Apparently, it's being recorded internally, but it's just not able to be broadcast right now. So we should be able to move forward,
They're out of Topeka.
and then they can address that when they post it. It's just not live streamed right now.
I'll get it.
Is that correct, Misty?
That's my understanding, and I don't have any faith that we're going to see the camera turn red and get that fixed
My fans
at this
will be
point.
so upset that
So-
they can't watch it.
So we can take minutes and to make sure it backs up the audio if the audio fails for whatever reason, and we should be okay.
Okay. All right, so you want us to go back into session from
If
recess?
you would, and allow Amy to give her synopsis.
Okay. All right, we're back in session. Let's see if we can, we're having some technical difficulties for those that are out there trying to monitor and listen and watch. We got some technical difficulties. We're going to work through it. All right, Amy, go ahead. I think you're going to go back over the minutes again.
Just to rephrase, this is case DEV 24-125, which is a special use permit request for a fairgrounds for, outdoor events located at the parcel at 00000 Cantrell Road. The PID number is listed. This parcel is zoned RR5, so this type of use does require a special use permit to operate, which is why they are requesting this request. They are requesting to operate essentially a fairground for up to 15 events per calendar year. The maximum number of attendees per event would be 300. Not all events will likely hit that 300 mark. Some of the events that they noted in their application would be rodeos, birthday parties, weddings, concerts, etc. And again, maximum amount of attendees would be 300. There was a question about the parking. They had listed 400 parking spaces. That would be to accommodate all the attendees, but also any commercial vehicle that they would need to support their event, as well as contestants who would be participating in the event, as well as employees on site. So that number would not be counted into the attendees. They are proposing to have their arena, as you can see here in the site plan. They have a stage that is located in a floodplain, but they do have their floodplain permit, so it is now in compliance. They have a vendor area where they will have third-party individuals selling food and retail sales. They indicated that they will not be selling alcohol on site. There is an existing barn, however, that's just an agricultural building. Staff is, of course, recommending that no events take place inside that building because it most likely does not meet fire code per state law. If there is anything I'm missing, you can go ahead, ask me questions. Hopefully that's a quick synopsis for you guys, so if you have questions, please let me know.
I have one question. If you go to the next page where you have all the conditions.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the application, it says there'll be no alcohol on there. I was just wondering, why is that not listed as one of the conditions?
We can put it as a separate condition. However, everything that's listed in the narrative is pursuant to number 5. The applicant shall comply with the narrative submitted on December 12, 2024. So since they put it in their narrative, I didn't separate it out. But we can definitely add that as a condition if this body would like to recommend that.
In essence, the narrative is the condition.
Narrative is? Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
So if they don't meet the conditions, then does the SUP get revoked?
It can get revoked. It goes
Okay.
through the same process in revocation as it does in approval. So not complying with the conditions is grounds for revocation.
There's also a comment in the packet that you provided that the number per year is not 15, but rather 22. Explain that.
Sure. An original submittal originally requested 52, but the applicant, after listening to some comments and concerns, amended that to 15. So they're requesting 15 per calendar.
So they're not requesting 20 weddings, 10
No.
and rodeos.
And I also want to make it clear, if there is an event held that falls under the private event definition in the zoning regulations, that is not regulated per this SUP. A person can do private events on their own personal property. These events are only those events that don't meet the definition of a private event. Essentially, they're open to the public and they're accepting a fee to hold that event.
But isn't a wedding accepting a fee?
If they do, if it's a family event where no fee is being exchanged and it's a private event, then it's a private event per our regulations and not beholden to this SUP request.
So they can't charge for a wedding.
they can, and if they do, that would fall under this SUP.
So to answer your question that you're getting to, they can have as many private events as they choose to have. In the absence of a fee or leasing out to another third party, the fee and the third party are what we're discussing here. Private events are private events, just like your home. If you chose to have 50 birthday parties from your family in a year, you could do that outside of the regulations that we currently have right now.
But I couldn't charge a fee to
But you
a
could not-
family to host.
You could not charge a fee. If you charge the fee, you would be required to get an SUP.
Can you go back one, please?
Absolutely.
Is the arena in the floodplain?
The arena is located in the floodplain, but based off my information, the arena has been there for some time. So therefore, it's essentially exempt.
It's a pre-existing condition. It's not one being proposed by this SUP.
So let me ask a question by doing a scenario. They hire a vendor to come out and provide food and drinks, and the vendor has an alcohol license. Can he sell it and it not be considered here, or the vendor doing it violate?
Yeah, the vendor doing it on site would be violation of that narrative. No
So-
sales on the site mean no sales on the site.
So no sales of alcohol on the site.
According to the narrative, yes.
Okay, so if there's report, someone attends and there is sales on the site,
It would have
it's
to
a
be
public
verified.
venue and it's verified, right? Then it would come back through the process again of being revoked, special use permit, just like we're going through this now of reviewing to,
It would be eligible for revocation. It's not a mandatory revocation. You
right?
believe that the action warrants revocation, or the BOCC believes it warrants revocation, then you can start that process.
And so the applicant fully understands this and fully agrees to these staff recommendation conditions with no alcohol being sold on the premises.
I believe they do. You would have to speak to them. However, it wasn't the narrative that they provided.
Okay. Okay. All right. Any other questions before we get on to the hearing? Any other questions for the team? Okay. All right. Staff, you provided some really good notes here on this case. I really appreciate it. It's really thorough, right down to the staff recommended conditions and so forth and the attachments. I appreciate that. Okay, so upon opening this public comment portion of this hearing, those of you who wish to speak either for or against this item, upon recognition, will give your full name and address each time you begin to speak. This is necessary since the public hearing is being recorded. This is limited to 3 minutes per person, and no returns back for an additional 3 minutes. It's 3 minutes per person. This public comment portion of the hearing is now open. Does the applicant wish to speak?
Good evening, Joe Herring, Herring Surveying, 315 North 5th Street. On this case, I really appreciate going in with staff here and talking about the 15 public events. That was one of the issues I wanted to get up here and talk about, that everybody understood. Private events are private, and with that, and I do apologize for the confusion with the site plan. That is my site plan, and we went from 400 parking stalls to 300. It's an open field. They're parking in a field, so there is no striping. It's, they'll have somebody there not only to help with parking, but also to help with keeping, two-way traffic availability in case there is an emergency that they can get in and out of. The applicants are here, and they will come up next and can ask some specific questions about that. But they were given a temporary SUP this summer. That was upon the recommendation of staff, and when I say staff, I mean the staff as a whole, not just the people sitting here, to come in and get that temporary SUP as a matter of good faith and show that they can have an event without any complaints, which they did, and then to move forward to a permanent SUP. They wanted to go straight into the permanent SUP, but followed the recommendations, and that is why they're here in front of you this time. instead of you getting to see it the last time they went through. That's pretty much it. I believe we've gotten everything handled with the narrative and through the conditions. And if you have any questions of me on the site plan or any of the conditions that are out there, I'm here to answer those.
Questions of the council or the applicant? Yeah, I figured, when you talk about rodeos, you got trucks and trailers bringing the animals in and out. You got to have turnaround distances. You're talking food trucks. You're talking band equipment and stage setup. You may have 300 parking spots, and there'll be another 100 parking spots being used up with a bunch of
Right. My first concept,
crew cab dualies and big long trailers.
We had 400 stalls on it, and it's an open field. You could probably, exceed that limit even.
Yeah.
But that's, we tried to hold it to the narrative, hold the layout to match what was going on. And you start showing 1,000 parking places, and people start raising eyebrows, and that's just not. They're not going to have that many people there.
So let me ask you, how long has this isn't the, as we say, this ain't the first rodeo. This isn't the first rodeo. This has been going on for years, right? How many years? How long has this been going on? Do you know?
I don't know that. I know there is a history here, and I know that history is the reason they had to do the temporary SUP. So they went through the history. They did the temporary SUP to show that they could do it with good faith, that they could pull off a proper event, and they did it, and that's why we're here.
Okay.
So the history is, in essence, history, in my opinion. But that's just my understanding of the process. I was not aware of how long this has been going on.
Well, I didn't know if there had been a use permit prior to and before, and now we're coming back in. So you being the applicant, I didn't know if you had any of that.
Has been.
Okay. All right.
Special use permit until this summer.
Okay.
This last summer. But staff could probably confirm that better than me.
Okay. Any questions for Joe? Any questions? All right. Thanks, Joe. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good to see you here tonight.
Good seeing you.
Yes, sir. Okay, we will now hear from those individuals present wishing to speak in favor of the request. Those wishing to speak in favor of the request. Please, sir, come on up. State your name and address.
My name is Aurelio Haro. You all have a good night. I'm part owner of there. Norma is my also owner, and we've been having the Mexican tradition for. It's been going on for so many decades. Which
Okay.
that's what we're trying to do, and to encourage our Mexican rodeos, our Mexican tradition, which is charreria. Same thing as rodeos out here. We just dress up a little different, but mainly it's all about getting our kids and family together and keep the tradition going. We've been doing this for, I'm 51 and I've been doing it since I was 14. And I encourage my kids also to do it too, and my grandsons, because it's a tradition that we have. We've been trying to get everything, according to the law. That's why we're here. We try to provide everything that they ask us for. That's why we're here. I even watered the entrance so it'll fit for everybody and for any emergency. I've been trying to do the thing right. That's why I'm here.
Keep your culture in, basically maintaining cultural awareness and doing cultural things in the area.
Yeah, because,
Okay.
My grandfather and my dad and all in the past, they all did charreria, which that's what, and also it's not just rodeos. We also, get a concert, a band that comes out there. Sometimes we do a charreria team, and whoever wins, and then we do a party for whoever wins, like pretty simple, similar to on the American rodeos. The teams that win, they go and have a party probably next weekend. We try to do all that. That's the main thing. So that's what we're here to try to get this the right way, and that's the reason we're here. And on my side, I never had any problems with loud music, because it was May, I think. My neighbor next door, he had a party there, and he did had a big party with the big old stage, but he focused the band, the surround system towards all the neighbors. I don't have hardly any neighbors around me. I mean, I'm close to the creek. There's trees all the way around. Next to me, it's an open field. In front of me, it's a tailgate ranch, which nobody lives there. Next to the east-west, it's my neighbor, that one that threw the party, that it was pretty loud, that he had cars outside. I never had any problems with that. Officer been arrived there a lot of times. Somebody calls him, but they say, no, it looks good. I can hardly hear the sound all the way to the road. So that tells you that, I mean, and I know that my neighbor threw a big party, and that's what's affecting us at all, because you're doing so loud music, not us. I mean, we've been there so long, and officers been there. I mean, they never complain. They even go.
Right time.
Okay.
All right.
I do have one
Thanks.
question, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
The one event that you had with the temporary permit,
Yes, sir.
did you have any formal complaints after that event?
Not that I know. Officers
Staff
passed by there, and I mean, saw the party, never stopped or anything. And I mean, I'm always polite with officers when they go. Hey, if they need anything, they are welcome to go in there. And matter of fact, if we get to do the events, I plan to hire a couple officers off the book, so they can be there for safety for everybody. I mean, this is not just something that, I mean, I want to throw a party and get drunk with everybody. No, it's something that I want to do it right. That's the reason I'm here. And that's the reason I put so much effort. Whatever we need, I mean, we got it. I mean, if they ask us for this, we try to get it. I mean, so that's, I don't know how to explain. Maybe if I speak in Spanish, probably better.
No, you're fine. So
I can hop in here and answer that question. The last incident report at this address was 4/16 of 2022.
So 2 years ago?
Was that a noise violation or a?
Nope, that was, I believe that was a traffic issue.
Okay, so no other complaints than that?
No, there was, I believe the Sheriff's Department, as of this morning, had been out there nearly 100 times, and there were 2 cases, both were traffic related, that were a result of those 100 calls since 2010.
So there's been 100 calls, but when the sheriffs get out there, there's really nothing to violate except for traffic, or they were called for
Right,
traffic.
there are only 2 cases that were a result of those calls. Both those cases, according to the sheriff again this morning, were traffic related.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Okay, we're still hearing from individuals in favor of the. Hello, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Norma Brockenberry, and I'm in favor.
And your address?
It's the same.
Okay.
I need you to state it.
It's 000 Cantrell Road. It changes. So the reason I'm here is just that I just want to emphasize that, you know, whatever we do there is mostly for like family events. It's not like to have all this like crazy people get drunk or anything like that. Is if you go there, you'll see a lot of kids, you see a lot of families, and we like that. We like to have the community be involved, especially with kids, that we have ponies, we have kids, you know, that they want to be part of this. And I think that that's the thing that we don't want. We don't want that to die off. This is something that has been going on for generations, and we don't get a lot of that. And so it's nice to be able to be part of it. And so I would like, you know, for you guys to look at that too, that it's mostly for a family event, for kids, for all of us to be involved in, you know, in something that is positive. And about the noise, there's really no noise. I mean, besides just, you know, us being in there. If you drive like to the other side, you wouldn't be able to hear anything. Just like he says, you know, I think one of the biggest thing, it was that Sweet 15 or something like that they had, the neighbor had, and I think it was extremely loud noise. But other than that, we haven't had any other problem beside that.
So how do you advertise, ma'am? How do y'all, is it just through families and?
Yeah,
I mean, is
mostly
it,
through
there's no
family.
advertisement? You guys don't do like advertisements or things, or what?
We haven't really advertised it like that, like, you know, Facebook or anything like that. It's mostly through family or through friends, that they know that we're going to have something, and so they get together and then they just come there.
Okay, so it's not like a business, like you guys are running a business or anything. You're doing a lot of, but occasionally there is where there's up to 15 times a year where, okay, this is a money driving event. It's going to cost a lot of money to bring in the band bring in the horse.
Having something like that is very expensive. So just because of the band, like just different things that composes that, it's expensive. So that's why it'd be nice if we could get some of the money back. And, so like that, we would not be losing so much money on that.
Okay.
But it's mostly, we just want to emphasize just that this is mostly like a family event and for kids, to be there and to be part, and just to be around animals. There's really nothing that we feel that is dangerous because we have our children there. And even sometimes during the summer, it's hot. And, we're all hot, but it's just nice because all of us are there and we're just doing something fun for everybody. But, summers are usually hot outside, so we're all just together and just having a good time.
So you've seen these staff recommended conditions?
Yeah.
Okay, and you guys have no problems meeting all of these conditions?
No, we don't. No.
Okay, because, there's a lot here.
I know, yes.
Right down to building a new entrance. That's going to cost some money right there.
Actually, he already he's done that.
Okay.
He went in the area and he's done a lot of the things that they recommended.
Okay. Okay. All right. Questions for her, please?
I do. Since we're actually giving you this SUP as a rodeo event space. Where are you getting your stock contractors from?
What do you mean?
Well, at rodeos, you're going to have horses, you're going to have bulls, you're going to have broncs. Where are you getting your stock contractors from? In-state, and not that it matters, but you got to, for 15 times a year, you're going to be bringing some animals in.
Yeah, so the horses, we have some horses, and the people that come in, they'll actually bring their own horses. They come in and they bring their own horses, and they do, that's how we all get together as a family. They know their horses, and they just bring them in. We give them water and food, for their horses. We have it there, afterwards, because sometimes it just gets so hot. So like that, they're well taken care of. That if that's what they want, it's there. As far as for the cattle and stuff like that, he'll be able to let you know more about that. Anything else?
About the cattle and all that. There were several times that Jake, the one that throws the bucking bulls and on the fair on the fairgrounds, he took some steers out there one time. There's another guy that has bucking bulls. He takes steers over there too. We get them from the local people. Like when we need the bulls. Horses. Everybody has to bring their own. That's not. We don't provide any horses for anybody. Everybody has to have their own horse if they want to be a cowboy. So because they're not cheap. And
I got a nice truck.
It takes a lot of time and a lot of money to feed a horse and have them nice and buffed up and well trained. So, but steers and all that, we get them from locals. And you probably know Jake. Every year he puts the bull riding, bronco riding, team roping there on Leavenworth County Fairs. So, and like him, there's 2 or 3 other ones that they lease us the stock. To have the event. We might be doing team roping too, because I got some buddies there on 2440 that they build a team roping arena, and we're kind of start practicing. So we got to get into more activities with horses, not just one thing. And she didn't know about the stock.
That's okay. I get it.
Yeah,
and also in here it says you're going to have 3 to 10 employees.
Yes, there'll be employees or family, but we call them employees. Because pretty much everybody. For example, I got my sons. I'll put them to help me out. Do this, do that. Her sister. her mom.
So let me jump in there for a second. The reason for those additional bodies is to control traffic on site.
Exactly. That was my next point I was getting to.
That was the intention. And
Okay.
That was a regulation that was put during the TSUP process.
Okay.
So it's carried over into the SUP.
So my next question is 3 to 10 employees going to be enough for these rodeo events? If you're having 300 cars come in.
Well, the intent there is that it was when they had the event. And,
Okay.
Again, we haven't had any additional items come up from the Sheriff's Department again. Checked with them again this morning after having them review the application as well. So we're not aware of any issues there, and we did watch this last time. So.
And my point I was getting back to, John, was I don't want to tell them you only can have 10 if you need 20. If you need 20, let's give them 20.
No, and again, at the end of the day, the intent there is to accommodate as many bodies as is necessary to make sure that traffic doesn't end up on the road, that it's on his site. So the 10 bodies was something that in the review process was agreed to.
It says
so he could have 20, not limited to 10.
Yeah, it says limited. It says shall be limited to 15, but
that's
employees. He can have as many family members as he wants that he calls
and I think,
staff.
Right, so I think
employees are actually paid, like the Porta-John guy.
Right. His intent there was, by calling them employees, is just people that are assisting, whether he pays them or whether it's a family member.
Right.
So a paid employee, yes, it would be limited to 10 paid employees, but there is no limit to how many people he can have assist on that.
Yeah. You can have as many staff members as you want to work. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
Any other? Anybody else have any other questions for him? Okay, we're still in those individuals present wishing to speak in favor. Okay. We'll now hear from those individuals present wishing to speak in opposition of the request. Those wishing to speak in opposition of the request.
We didn't realize the time was so short here. Can she have my 3 minutes?
We're a couple, and I'm making the presentation.
It's one 3-minute per person.
All right.
Sure, take 6 minutes.
Thank you, sir. Okay, I just want to say Julie Downs and David Downs, 13462 222nd Street. We appreciate your time. David used to serve on the Planning and Zoning Committee. I did want to say for over 20 years we've been in communication with the Planning and Zoning Committee, the county attorney, and the county commissioners regarding Jairo Aurelio and the many events he has had. I had a PowerPoint presentation from 2015 that's very explanatory about all that's been going on. The county is aware, but we have so much turnover that I think that's the issue, that Aurelio repeatedly requested SUPs we've been here for we've been dealing with this for 23 years. He's been non-compliant, and he has proceeded to do events anyway, all the time, when he has been denied SUPs. And we have plenty of documentation that we've sent on this. We live right by him. So the county commissioners did not have this information. He said they're not serving alcohol, and we're going to show you that's not true. All right, but a lot of other things. So I'm going to read a quote from Kyle Anderson, who said, since they are repeat offenders and have been declined an SUP permit, we didn't even send them a violation report, but we're going to send them directly to court. Okay, that's 2022. Joe Jacobson, clearly there's a long history with this property owner, with the county taking various actions to achieve compliance. That compliance appears to be temporary when and if it does occur. We as the planning and zoning and legal are exploring our options regarding other entities to pursue statutory compliant enforcement. Our code enforcement officer, Kyle Anderson, will work in conjunction with our legal team utilizing our existing process to achieve compliance in the future. Okay. Dennis Bigsby, a former commissioner, took Jairo to the state, and he shut him down for 5 years for tax violations. Okay, and some other things. Okay? So we were a little surprised when we did walk into the county commissioners, but he said that, like he said, there's no we've been calling the sheriff for years. Other people have been calling the sheriff for years. They can't do anything. That's a problem for the Planning and Zoning Committee and the county commissioners. You guys have told us, and I have tons of paper on this, to call the sheriffs. And what do you know if they can do anything? They can't.
Only if there's a crime being committed.
They can't. Okay. So here's what happened. And by the way, they didn't have an event in July. After we walked out and we presented, we were so upset about what was happening, we hired a compliance agency. We spent tens of thousands of dollars of our own money to fight this. And we're very serious. Okay. I'm going to show you. Here is 2024.
If it's pictures or things, ma'am, I can't see them. They didn't meet the timeline.
I can't print. I can't print off my computer today.
I can't.
I was going to show you.
I can't look at them, ma'am. We can't look at them because none of that met the timeline for tonight. We didn't. None of that can be presented because it didn't meet the timeline for tonight.
Okay. Well, I have a video, I will just say, of lights in 2024 going around the whole area with, and the county let me present this, and with lights and so loud music, and I'm on my porch. This is happening for years. So we hired a compliance agency, and here's what they uncovered. This isn't just family events. This is an organization that's holding events throughout the state. There's events. The compliance agency we hired has sent you a presentation, I believe. You will see advertisements in Spanish, and I have all the pictures. I was fortunate enough to have gone and brazen enough to go down Cantrell Road by myself and take pictures of all these events. And now we have them supported. They're Hispanic events. They advertise you can't bring alcohol. They're selling alcohol. This is a statewide program. I drove to DeSoto and looked at another rodeo. This is not a family event. They're making thousands and thousands. That's why they're working so hard. They're making thousands of dollars. And you're giving us 3 minutes for 20 years worth of work to fight them. And they're constantly denying the SUPs. So this is what I wanted to finish up with. There are hundreds of people. I just took a picture. His parking, I have a picture of his parking just this last summer. It's all over the road. The music, we can hear it from a mile away. And so can other neighbors. They've called. And by the way, our neighbors couldn't come. They're sick or they're feeding cattle or all of these things that people have to do. So we're huge animal rights activists. We donate a lot of money. As we speak, the animal abuse people are taking a look at this. Charros are what they call their rodeos. The national abuse, is that 3 minutes?
That's 6.
6 minutes.
Okay. I'm just going to wrap.
Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay.
Wait, do you all have questions for her or for him? Questions?
I do. Or
Okay.
maybe either one of you or when was the last SUP or when did
Yeah, that's why I'm confused.
because I've only been on here right at 2 years. So when did
Staff
they?
can answer that.
Okay.
So the last TSUP that they applied for was this summer. I believe everybody's using SUP and TSUP interchangeably. There's a difference. TSUPs, from my understanding, the owners had applied for and were approved for TSUPs many, many years ago. So not an SUP,
Just
a
temporary.
TSUP. And then those requests stopped, but events were still being held. It was then sent to code enforcement for violating the TSUP process. And then, obviously, that court case ran its course. The courts told the owners that they had to get the TSUP or SUP to be compliant. So as of this summer, they requested their first TSUP in a couple years, from my understanding, and were approved. And so now they are back requesting a special use permit for them to operate over whatever amount of time is approved per this action.
They didn't have the event. We hired someone to go to it, and they didn't have the event. Ask them if they had the event. They didn't have it.
All right, other questions for them?
You said you had pictures and videos that couldn't get submitted on time. Was that just from one event or multiple?
Oh, for years. Yeah, for multiple events.
Okay.
These events, you mentioned 4/16/23 and something about the non-compliance. Well, there's an ad, Hispanic ad, that goes all over, and they sell tickets. I don't know how much, $40-60, multiply that for 200 or 300 people. And then alcohol sales, which we can prove. You're talking $20,000, $30,000, no tax revenue to Kansas. That's why Bixby got them shut down.
I got a question, ma'am. Why didn't you submit this information so we could have this in a timely manner?
You know, I have had 3 neck surgeries. I've been to Mayo Clinic. I'm not feeling well.
I'm 7 weeks after a brand new knee, and I'm sitting here
I've
tonight.
had multiple health issues.
I understand, but how long was our notice in the mail?
20 days prior.
20 days. Well,
We got it December 21st.
Okay.
It's the holiday.
Okay.
And then we had to reach out to the compliance agency that we just paid thousands of dollars to, and this man is on oxygen. He talked to me today on oxygen. That's why he couldn't be here.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Any other questions for the team? Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it.
Commissioners, if I may, I do want
Yes,
to
please,
clear
Misty.
up some things. So there's been discussion about the TSUP and violations. I want to be clear with this body that there were code cases that were brought against the applicants because allegations were made that they were hosting events without a TSUP or an SUP. So I did initiate code case across the street against both applicants, and the goal of a code case is to get compliance. When looking at the events, some of them were private events that would not require a TSUP or SUP, but there was some evidence that we may have succeeded in that events were being had without that should have had an SUP. So working through the code case across the street, the recommendation was if you get yourself in compliance and you start applying for permits for the events, then we're not going to have an issue. But if you have events without it, we're going to come right back over here and have discussions on it. So this application here today and the TSUP was the recommendation of the code case was to get in compliance and everybody understand the conditions that are before them.
Okay.
That's basically all I'd have to say. Other things that were presented today, please just remember that this is a land use matter. We can't go off of allegations. Decisions shouldn't be based off of that. If there is a actual charge and a conviction, then decisions can be based off of that.
Yeah, thanks, Misty. I appreciate you stating that last thing. So regardless of allegations, regardless of hearsay, regardless of what we think may be going on, it can't go into effect of decision of this board without conviction. Is that what you're telling us?
Correct. You would need to base any decision based on the golden factors. As always, when you're making a vote, I'd ask that you state your reasons for it in compliance with the golden factors. There is admittedly a history on this parcel, and this is the action today is to look at that and how to not recreate history and get everybody in compliance. And the applicants have worked with staff to come forward with this application. So other questions that were brought up by any of the comments, you are free to ask the applicants to come up and answer questions if there's specific issues with what was said.
Okay. Thank you, Misty. Counsel.
Okay, I've got a comment. Anybody that's guilty always tries to fix their problem.
Hang on a minute. Any other additional information to be presented? Public comment portion of this hearing is now closed. Okay. Let me finish reading this statement.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Okay, because I jumped ahead and you were about to fall right in line with me there. Okay? All right, so the public comment portion is here. Kansas law allows for a petition protesting the decision of the Planning Commission to be filed. That petition must be filed within 14 calendar days after the date of the public hearing. Additional information on the filing of a protest petition can be obtained from the Office of the Planning and Zoning. Now, are there questions and comments from members of the commission?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Please, go ahead.
My first comment is, anybody who ever gets caught doing the wrong thing, we all want to fix it. And this seems to be the problem we're trying to fix here. And we've had this problem in the past in Leavenworth County. My problem with this, with the way what we're given here is my problem. The 5 year, I'm not for 5 years. They've owned this property for several years. They have skirted the issues multiple times. Let's give them a year. Let's give them a year trial practice. If there's not an issue in a year, then I say we give them 10 years. But I'm not up for giving somebody 5 years on a SUP that hasn't been able to follow the laws for the last 10 years. And we've all know how our SUP problem has been in the past in Leavenworth County. And what I'm told is you can sue for anything. So let's give them a year. If they follow the deal, I'm all for giving them 5-10 years. But I'm not for giving them 5 years when they've skirted the system for the last 10.
Okay.
And maybe longer than that. And I know there's been accusations. Everybody makes mistakes. We've all skirted the system one way or another, here or there. But I'm not for 5 years, guys. I'm not for, and I'm just not going to do 5 years. So if we want to rewrite this and we want to give them a year trial.
Well, remember what John said. John said up to 5 years. He's already told you. So if you present to me a motion and you get the second and you get the team to concur, then that's what you're recommending as a year.
Then that's
right. But that's your point.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Doug, what say you?
I was just going to say about the concern admission, and they haven't done the proper procedures forever. And so I don't think giving them a 5, I'm with you, Robert, I don't think that a 5-year SUP is warranted here. I think a 1 year and see if at the end of 1 year they can come back. I mean, this is relatively easy, and we can see if there are complaints that have been adjudicated or not. So I was going to say 2 years, but 1 year is fine with me.
I guess my only. Go ahead. It can be revoked at any time. If we give him 5 years, or we give him 10 years, or we give him 15 years, and they're not in compliance to follow the conditions, and they get planning and zoning just getting complaints, they can revoke this whole thing, and it's gone.
No, they can't.
Yes, they can.
We've seen this numerous times with SUPs. We can't revoke it just like that. They file a lawsuit, and then we're tied up in court over the issue, and it drags on for years, and the SUP floats for years.
Only if there's an undefined timeline. If you define a timeline, that changes the game.
Yeah, and you're talking about defining a 1 year timeline.
Whether it's 1, 2, or 5, that changes that process.
Right.
Yes.
So it can't, are you saying that this could not be revoked?
No, I'm not saying that
It
at all.
could
I'm
be.
saying it absolutely
Yes.
can.
If-
But the process by which it's revoked differs when you have an indefinite SUP than an SUP with a timeline, whatever that timeline happens to be.
And if it's a 1-year reapply, then the Board of County Commissioners and the Planning Commission have a chance to look at, a temporary use permit, a temporary special use permit, one time, and they were good during that one time.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do it for a year, and then come back together and take a look at it.
Well, now, remember what you were presented. You got one side saying it wasn't good, and there's been multiple calls, but they can't do anything about it. So now my follow-up to that organization is okay, then how do we justify the accuracy of the calls? So how do you get the complaints? We have a 1-year special use permit, and how do you know if you're meeting it or not meeting it? Because we just got told they can't do anything. And they can do traffic violations, but they can't really do anything else.
But if
So how do you know?
If there are traffic violations, and some of the, there's a lot of allegations and things with this. But if there are complaints, received through the Planning Commission,
Sure.
through the Sheriff's Office,
Sure.
whatever, if there are complaints received in the next year and we've got them on a 1-year SUP, then at the end of the year, if there's lots of complaints and we say, I don't know whether I'd be willing to vote to extend it.
Okay.
Didn't we address that? How long has it been since you guys have had a complaint on this?
2 years. Be 3 years in April.
3 years
22,
as of the 16th.
April of 22.
I think we're trying to read things in that we don't know that those are the facts.
But there's a history of
it's
not doing this by the owner's own admission. So I don't see a problem with saying we're going to limit it.
With that argument, the county commissioners that we are advising saw fit to issue a temporary permit. Now they're here to ask for a permanent.
Well, special use. Yeah, special use.
Permit.
Yep.
Why don't we just send this back and recommend that this go back to the county commissioners and let them finish what they started?
Well, because it's at our plate.
Because they're going to send it right back to us in 30
Well,
days.
let me again clarify. Don't mix up a temporary special use permit and a special use permit. Temporary special use permit is issued by the BOCC. An SUP has a public hearing and runs through this body first. You make a recommendation, then it goes to the BOCC. They either affirm, deny, send it back, or modify. So those are two different things, and we're conflating those two things. So just to be clear, there is no choice but to go through this board first and then to the BOCC.
Well, I use the wrong language, sending it back to them. I would say that we should just recommend that we pass this and go back to the county commissioners and let them finish what they started.
But they didn't start anything. They gave them a temporary use for a 1-day event, which
That
anybody.
didn't happen. Which didn't happen that day. Is that correct?
We can't verify that happened or didn't happen.
Okay, whether or not it happened, but it's a 1-day event. Anybody can go get a 1-day event deal. You come in here, you say, hey, I'm going to have this event at my house. I'm going to have a band, Here you go. Here's your $400. But when we're given a long-term commitment here, and I get, and I'm all for giving everybody a second chance. I'm not saying, hey man, they're bad. They started this for 20 years. They should have known better. Yes, you should have known better, but you're trying to make it right now. So give us a stance of good faith. 1 year, you follow the rules. There's no complaints, and you come back next year, next snowstorm, next January, And you come in, you're like, hey, we did everything. We had no complaints. And I'll tell you what, I'm the first one that says, give them 10 years. But I'm not ready to do that today.
How much harm is there to err on the side of safety here? If it's for a year and we come back, is it really going to harm us to have to come back and revisit this?
No, I don't think so.
No.
No. We're all going to be here in a year.
But let me ask you this.
Hopefully, maybe.
All right, I'll save it. Dan, what do you got?
Well, I was wanting to let you get through this subject. Mine's a little bit different. I'd like to ask the applicant.
It's still on the same.
Yes, it's on the same.
Okay.
I'd like to ask the applicant about the provisions, the 13 provisions, make sure that they understand that if they violate that is grounds to start the process to revoke it, and that includes the application where it says no alcohol. I don't know what they plan to do, because if they have guests coming in, it's public, not private, coming in, and they bring alcohol with them, what is their plan to keep the alcohol off the premises?
No, that's not part of it. They can have a private event, and people bring, and it's like bring your own beer, right? They can have one of the 15 events where people bring your own beer. The issue is you cannot sell alcohol. Am I wrong there, Misty?
That's my understanding, is that the narrative was they would not sell alcohol.
So there can be alcohol on the grounds, because it's
So that
like a
means
bring your own.
no vendors that sell alcohol,
Right,
and they themselves cannot sell alcohol. As far as enforcement of no alcohol on the premises, that was not a criteria.
It's not.
Okay,
Yeah.
I just want to make it clear where the boundaries were.
Yeah. Now, charging money at the gates and charging money to enter the rodeo and charging money to help cover band costs and all that kind of stuff, that counts as one of these 15, if I'm not mistaken, because that's part of an event. There's money
that's
exchanging.
Part of the criteria that says it's a public event.
That's right. Right? And she stated they don't do any advertising at all. It's all word of mouth. But we heard tonight that there is advertising, so there is a way of advertising, so they are advertising. But I have to go with what we're presented here tonight and what was presented in time for tonight for our land use. And what we said, what Misty and John have been clear on is whatever we're proposing tonight will go forward to the Board of County Commissioners. So if you all are 1 year or 2 year or a 3 year or a 5 year, either way it's going to go from here to the Board of County Commissioners to approve. And that's if you approve one at all, right? Because I'm not saying what the motion's going to be, but I'm just saying it's totally up to you all. And you brought up good points, okay? I understand there's concern about the alcohol, and we beat that pretty hard.
Yep.
There's not going to be sales of alcohol, period. So my concern is, okay, they're selling alcohol at a private event. When you call somebody, they can't do anything. And then there's no complaints filed because you call somebody and they don't record the complaint. And now here we are. So whether we're 1 year, 2 years, 3 years out, or 5 years out, that's going to still be an issue. So that I guess over the next years or whatever, I guess they'll find a way to enforce what we're saying here tonight, or they won't have a special use permit. Okay, but that doesn't mean they don't stop doing their private events. So they're having 30 private events a year.
Private events are unregulated.
Absolutely. I'm not sure where the 52 events come from, because there's like 52 weeks in a year. That would have to be an event every week.
No, it was stated in the staff report that, and they said up to 52 events a year, and then they went to the 15 paid events, and apparently the other 37 events are going to be private, where they're not going to.
Well, I
charge any
think
money.
the intent, to clarify, I think the intent there.
Well,
is that
exactly. And the
they're trying
applicant,
to They coupled all of those events together, every possible birthday party, every possible, I mean, they've got a large section of property there. And so the intent, because the only thing that's regulated are the paid events, which were, and judging from the narrative, 15 events a year. So that's the difference in the 52 to the 15.
Yeah.
So
It's not necessarily, because a wedding is generally not, are generally paid for if they're held at an event location such as this. So that's why I
depends.
assumed
Yeah,
there were
it
weddings
depends.
to be paid for.
I've been to many weddings at many places down on large acreage that were not paid for.
So family.
Right.
Family event, don't pay.
Right, family and friends.
They don't even pay for photography.
Now, when
It's
you have
pretty
a
cool. If you own the
structure.
land, you can have a party and everything. The caterer, the photographer, you can have it all for free.
Now, I would agree with you when you have structure, say a barn, where you have hard structure to pay for, yes. Most of the time, those are absolutely paid events because you have to pay for the structure, the utilities, and all those elements that go into that. But this is not that. Clearly, in the one structure that's there has been noted in the exceptions that it cannot be used for events at all.
Yeah, that's what it says. It's item number 9.
It also says that no amplifiers will be permitted for any live music band. That's in the conditions that were voted on.
Yep.
So,
These are some pretty hard.
So my next question goes back to Misty. Sorry. When we do get a neighbor call, and the sheriff goes out there, they were like, oh, they got amplifiers, and yes, there's beer everywhere. Legally, what do we do?
Well, so I'm just speaking for the county and not for the sheriff's office. So if a sheriff's report came in saying that conditions of an SUP were violated, then the attorneys would be able to review the case, see if there's sufficient evidence, and because we have Codes Court back and running, that was one of my charges when I was hired, was to get Codes cases working in district court again, because they had stopped for years. And I did. So then what I do is issue a notice of violation, and we go and appear in front of the judge and discuss the violation. My goal is always compliance over there. Those are the type of cases. I haven't had they violated your SUP case. That's a bit different because now we're dealing with a known event that's documented. There's enough evidence for me to proceed. I would be looking for more of a punishment level at that point in order to get compliance. So for something like that, I mean, they are misdemeanors. The fines are a few $100s by statute. There's a max on it. And so really it's more of the punishment is the time appearing in front of the judge over and over again in order to get compliance. So that's a bit of a long answer, but you would be looking at a citation, and if they were convicted in court, we could then possibly move to revoke. But what we have to remember is the revocation process. We have to follow due process because these are people's property.
Yeah, it could
Everybody
take up
has
to
property
year,
rights.
2 years, drag on.
I wouldn't say a codes case is going to drag on for more than a few months.
Okay.
The revocation process, it could be a bit timely because we have to follow due process if we're telling people what they can and can't do on their property.
Exactly right. Okay.
Is there another page, or is this 23, all of them?
Yeah, so look, can't fit all 23 legibly on one screen, so I split them in 2, but 23 in total.
One more question. Is it possible to table this for 30 days?
No.
No.
Nope.
Okay.
Sorry, already asked that.
Okay, because we're missing a fairly decent staff up here.
Yeah. I can ask the applicant or the client to please come back up. I've got a question for
You
him.
have specific questions?
Yeah, I do. Joe, either you or Mr. Herrera, either one can come up. The question that I have is define the cultural events. Are those cultural events all in here? Is there any other cultural events in the rodeo that are not mentioned in here?
You're talking about in the application itself?
Yeah, in the application of the special use permit. we're talking about rodeos, we're talking about events with animals, or is there any other type of cultural events other than what we talked about with the bulls and the cows and maybe sheep herding for the little kids? They get on a sheep and they ride and they fall off. That's a lot of fun. Is there any other events that I'm not aware of?
And the actual
Relevant to the rodeo? Yeah.
We're basically it's a public event or it's not a public event.
Either one.
If it's a public event.
Yeah, I'm only talking the 15 because that's all I can address.
With a rodeo, if that's it, I don't get where you're going at. What's your angle on that question?
My question is
it bull riding? Is it?
Yeah, just is there any other right? Is there any other cultural events that we haven't?
Rodeo, well, then that's what the application.
Okay.
Yeah, you got bulls, broncs, and
sheep and cows and that kind of stuff,
barrel
right?
racing,
The discussion
steer
of cultural
dog.
events.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay, because that's what he said. He said he's doing this to maintain his culture
That is
in this environment. So I take it as a culture event.
I maintain my culture with my children the same way you do yours.
Yeah.
So that has no bearing on what you guys are looking at right now.
Yeah. I'm asking about the 15 events. Yep. Yep.
I've got a question for staff. Clarify for me, public event is what we're talking about here. What is a public event for what they're describing?
Is it okay if I do the reverse and tell you the definition for
By
a
all
private
means.
event?
Yes.
Okay. I will pull it straight from the book for y'all. All right. Just give me a second to go to the right section. Still not there. Okay. Per our regulation, a private event is events meeting the definition. I went to the wrong section. I'm sorry.
And while she's doing that, if I could just bracket the conversation here. What we're here tonight to discuss is land use within the defined elements of the land use table, okay, which in this instance is fairgrounds. Anything that's permissible within a typical fairground use is what we're discussing here tonight, of which rodeos are one. As far as permitting the rodeo, every element of the rodeo, not necessarily what you're looking at here today. You're looking at this use, the supplemental use for the base zoning classification. So it's obviously not residential. So in the land use table, fairgrounds and all the associative elements that she talked about before in the staff report are really what you're considering. So certainly ask all your questions, but define your concern to that land use table because that's
the reason I'm asking is I'm kind of interested.
Sure.
I mean, we got rodeos right down the street. We're all not very far from him.
Right.
So if he's conducting rodeos and music and stuff, yeah, I'm all for it. That's the reason why I'm asking if there's anything else.
Sure,
Other
but,
than,
and again, I thought that's what you were asking.
Yeah.
Again, I just
Yeah.
wanted to make sure we bracketed that conversation where it needs to be within the confines of that SUP discussion.
Absolutely.
All right. Per our regulations, the definition of a private event is an event occurring at a private residence or property that is not open to the general public. Tickets are not required, and no fee is associated with the event. Event has not been published or advertised in a public manner. Examples of a private event include, but are not limited to, graduation parties, wedding receptions, birthday parties, family reunions, picnics, and barbecues.
Next question. Knowing that that is how we describe a private event, and taking public events do not have that criteria, they have a different criteria. Who does regulate that?
Well, from a land use perspective, obviously, we do. Planning and zoning does. The Planning Commission reviews these. The Board of County Commissioners ultimately approve these. So, like John just stated, what we're doing here is they are requesting the use of the property as a fairground. And therefore, that fairground approval, if it is approved, allows them to hold public events that do not meet the definition of a private event. So they are open to the public, they are charging a fee for admittance or for usage of that parcel. That is the land use component in which is up for question tonight.
So taxation and any other element that you may be considering is handled through the state. Tax ID components, all of that is state regulated. The only thing that we regulate at a local level is exactly what you said, that's land use. So if you want to have the opportunity to host that event, you have to come before this board and request an SUP if it's more than one event to operate on a basis for whatever the term you guys decide that you want to allow that supplemental use. So again, at the end of the day, it's simply a supplemental use over the top of the base zoning district.
Thank you, because this has been a fuzzy area in my thinking for a while.
Sure.
So, John, my next question is, where the Leavenworth County Fairgrounds currently set, because that's basically what we're going to give them a SUP for, is a fairground. They can have carnivals, private events, public events, rodeos, whatever at the fairground, because that's how Leavenworth County Fairgrounds work. Is that zoned as a commercial property there in Tongi?
Well, let me go back to the first part of your question. They're defined by their narrative. The elements that they're going to complete on the site are restricted by the narrative that they turned in.
Okay.
So what you see in that narrative is the only use that will be allowed on the site should an SUP be approved.
Including the special condition.
Including the special conditions, right. So you can't go outside of that. It's very specific to the narrative and the condition.
We don't have no Ferris wheel on here.
Well, the only time that you need permanent rezoning is when it's a permanent use.
Yeah.
An SUP by nature is a termed permit. So if it's 5 years, 1 year, 10 years, that is not a permanent use. Doesn't result in a permanent rezoning change to that parcel. That's why the SUP is the vehicle
Correct.
by which you have the additional rights assessed. Does that answer your question?
Not really. Because my question is, it looks like we're going to turn this into a commercial property is what we're going to do here.
You can only do that when it's a permanent rezoning change.
Exactly.
When it's termed.
That was my next point. Because most properties that are set up where rodeos are held are already on a commercial property.
Depends on who owns those particular parcels.
And although he spoke about team roping on 2440, I've team roped on 2440, and we did pay $25 a piece to rope there, so that was a paid event. So,
yeah, the name and address.
Yeah. They all know me over the county.
But that's getting. I mean, that's not really what we're discussing here for tonight. That's not really what we're discussing. I mean, that's
so if I can just clarify,
coulda, shoulda, woulda, maybe in the future. Right now, we're talking about an individual requesting to properly document a special use permit to do the things he's been doing, as he said, for decades, since he was 14 years old, and he's wanting to make it official.
Sure. And just to clarify on the SUP, going back to the question one more time, SUPs are typically the vehicle that people try businesses out. When the businesses grow, they tend to move to because they can't contain all of their use on a single site.
Right.
So the intent there is to establish the interest, grow a business, and then when you get big enough, move to a commercially or industrial zoned site. But to answer your question, not every fairground is zoned commercial. In fact, I know of very few. Most are zoned agricultural, or most, and again, they're event-based. They're not 24 hours a day, every day. So a commercially zoned area would have that use on a day-to-day basis. That is not what a rodeo does, nor does the fairgrounds that we own. It's for a very specific timeline, and it happens one time a year. So, it doesn't need a commercial zoning for that. That's more of an event-based permitting process.
Okay.
Does that clear it up?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that was my question.
Okay. All right, I got another question. Did we ever get the camera to work?
No.
No.
Okay.
But it is being recorded. Hopefully we can upload that tomorrow. If not, we are taking formal minutes.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay. All right. I've allocated more than enough time for all of us to have any other questions or discussion at this level. At this time, I'll entertain a motion on this request. The motion is a special use case DEV 24-125. It's a special use permit for an amusement park, commercial athletic fields, racetracks, circuses, carnivals, and fairgrounds for outdoor events for RJ Farm as outlined in your posted agenda.
want to make the motion, or do you all want to make it? Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, I find that the special uses permit request complies with the golden factors and move to recommend approval to the Board of County Commissioners of the request as outlined in case DEV 24-125 based on the recommendation of planning staff and the finding is set forth in the staff report, and that this approval shall be for a 1-year period of time.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor to approve limitation of 1 year. Do I have a second?
You got a second.
I have a motion and a second on the floor. Is there discussion of this motion?
Yeah, I still feel that it would just be a lot cleaner and simpler all the way around if we just approved this as staff presented it with all of their recommendations. Send it, let the county commissioners have it back. They're going to make a decision anyway. So if they don't like our 1 year, they're going to change it to 5 or whatever they want to change it to. But we could keep it a lot cleaner and simpler if we would just do it that way. This way we're muddying up the waters for no good reason. I mean, we've heard the staff say, we've heard the attorney say, that there is a procedure here. If they don't follow all of these recommendations and they're doing things wrong, we can take the special use permit away from them. So we're throwing something in that really I don't think is necessary at all.
There is somebody in Leavenworth County operating on a special use permit that said they were going to have 6 events a year, and they're a bar and grill every Friday night. And I'm saying it's not as easy to undo that special use permit. So you're saying just go the 5 years, because if there's a problem, then they can come back and then they'll address it. But this other problem with this other one has never been addressed, and it keeps getting complained. So I'm just saying, for the neighbors on that, like, they feel like, what can they do at that point? So, I mean, I know what you're saying, but I'm just playing the devil's advocate on that other side of that.
See, and to follow with your point on the golden factor number 1, you know, the nature of the neighborhood, we've had some comments from neighbors and interested parties that don't apply to the actual land use, but with the conditions that we outlined, that the planning staff outlined, that we recommend that they approve, that gives the neighborhood the ability to not just say, well, I don't like what they're doing, but to come back and say, violation of this particular condition or that particular condition. And so after a year, if they've run their 15 public events and there have been no complaints against any of those, then we come back together next year and recommend a 5-year approval.
Right.
And this I think gives those that are against it the added time to do what they feel is necessary, but it also gives me a feeling that, well, if they don't do it right, then they shouldn't have the SUP, and it shouldn't come up every 5 years. 1 year is my recommendation.
Well, and to your point, Alan, about throwing it back to the Board of County Commissioners, they are elected officials. We are not. Right. We do this out of the graciousness of our heart. And they come and go as well. I mean, we've got new county commissioners coming in. They've overrode us on some stuff in the past. I want to let's hold them accountable. Let's say we give them 1 year. They do it right, we give them 5 years. Make our elected officials be accountable to our county residents.
If that's their prerogative.
If that's their prerogative. But I'm saying that out. Let's make them be held accountable to our county constituents.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second on the floor to approve with a 1 year. What say you, sir?
Me?
Yep.
I'm in favor of a 1 year.
I'm just saying, do you have any discussion on the motion on the floor?
That's it.
Okay. Dan?
I'm in favor of 1 year for a specific reason. It allows everybody involved to see if the applicant's going to make the effort to follow all the conditions, all of the rules and everything that they have agreed to, and maybe allow for some healing between neighbors as well. And if they follow all the rules for the 1 year, then fine, we move out and we're neighbors, let bygones be bygones. If they violate it, then it's on them.
And I think a year's worth of time gives them the ability to basically establish this can be extended.
Okay. All right. Any other discussions on the motion? Okay. I'll take a roll call vote. Can you do me a favor, Doug Tystead?
Sir.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Tystead. Can you repeat again the motion on the floor?
Yes, I can.
Please, because it's not being filmed, it's being recorded, but I'd like to make it very clear.
Yes, sir. Chairman, I find that the special uses permit request complies with the golden factors and move to recommend approval to the Board of County Commissioners of the request as outlined in case DEV 24-125 based on the recommendation of planning staff and the findings set forth in the staff report. And I further recommend that this special use permit be limited to 1 year.
And I have a second.
Second.
I'll call roll. Alan Stark?
No.
And the reason, sir?
I just think we're overstepping our bounds and muddying up the waters here. We really don't have to. It's just, we're not a enforcement body.
Okay. Okay. William Guschock?
Yes.
Doug Tystead?
Yes.
Robert Owens?
Yes.
Steve Skeet?
Yes.
Ben Clemens?
Yes.
Okay. Let the record show the motion is carried by a vote of 5-1. The Board of County Commissioners will consider this item no earlier than January the 29th, 2025 at 9 a.m. in the Leavenworth County Courthouse. Do I have a motion for adjournment?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Meeting's adjourned. Thank you very much, gentlemen.